Hello, MrListerBlister. How are you?
I am very good.
You again? Okay, you didn't fall in the trap.
I didn't fall in the trap
of saying, "Yeah, all right, mate, good." And I was gonna tell you one of the things that I learned, like getting a conversation going, is don't just say, "I'm fine," because that's the end of the conversation, isn't it?
100%.
You can't. There's nowhere to go from there. But if you say something like, "You know what? Pretty good," like, "Oh, very good," it kind of sparks a little thing like, "Oh, why is it good?" Right?
I am guilty of saying I'm fine, but I try to then explain why I'm just fine.
Yes.
And
even if you feel like shit, there's always something good that's going on, which you can focus on, and you can maybe use that, right? You can go like, "Oh, I don't feel so great, but there's this thing going on, so I'm happy about that." You can bring something positive into it.
Yeah, exactly.
A fellow Brit.
Brit on.
Yes. By the way, whereabouts are you from without revealing critical private information?
I'm not too bothered. So I'm within the M25, southwest of London.
Okay. We're not too far, actually.
No, like I'm...
We'll meet for an ale someday, dude.
Hell yeah, I'm down for that.
Awesome.
Like, I'm like a 45-minute train to like London Waterloo, and then I can basically, get anywhere from there.
Yeah.
So...
Yeah, Sensu in the chat is right. You can get the opposite, which is oversharing, where you ask like, "Yo, how are you doing?" And it's like, "Oh, it's terrible." And then they go on to tell you about traumatic events. Like, come on.
Just sing Sound of Silence at you in reply.
Yeah. All right, dude. By the way, I've always wanted to ask you this. Where does your name come from, MrListerBlister?
So I kind of have to tell you like where it doesn't come from as well.
Okay.
So my name is Dave. Like my real name's Dave.
Nice.
And people are like, "Oh, Dave Lister, Red Dwarf." It's not from that.
Right.
I really liked a car when I was a kid called the Lister Storm.
Okay.
But I didn't like, and I was called like Lister Storm for ages. And then when I started on Twitch, I was like, MrListerBlister sounds fun.
Yeah.
So I just kind of picked it because I enjoyed like saying it. Like I just enjoyed saying it, and then from there, people have gone like, people love it. Like you get like in like people's chats now, they've added commands where they literally do like an exclamation mark with like MLB space and then a word and just make like MrListerBlister or something like that.
There's something about it. I thought it was kind of genius actually because it sticks with you, doesn't it? It's got that like rhyme quality to it that sticks in your mind. A lot of times I find Twitch streamers have just like impossible names. Like they got an underscore there, they got some numbers. It's like, dude, how can I, even if I wanted to tell someone about your channel, I'm not going to be able to remember.
Yeah, no, 100%. And thank God, like the COD gamer tags didn't make it over to Twitch. You have so many like XX Sniper Josh 360
dude,
XX.
Yeah, 69.
69 420 Sniper.
Yeah.
Blaze every day XX.
Right, yeah. But dude, I do this to all my streamer friends that come on the show. Give me your elevator pitch for who is MrListerBlister if people, want to check you out.
I would say the best way to describe it is I'm a masochist gamer. So old, new games, but as long as the game makes me hate myself just a tiny little bit, there's a chance that I would probably play it. Like I love horror, I love Souls-likes, I love like just shooters, and that's like just those kind of games, old and new. But yeah, masochist gamer, I would say. Masochist streams. So like all the Souls-likes I played.
Yeah.
Stalker, which have interesting systems.
Yeah, dude. It's quite old, but it still holds up. I think it's quite an intense game for sure.
It's yeah, that, and I don't want to. I'm still in the process of working out my rants on those games. Souls like selling.
Yeah, It's interesting you mentioned that because when I played those games on stream, a lot of it was about having like some kind of monologue going on, because the action itself, you know, if you're dying a lot in those games, you know, you're gonna die, you're gonna have to repeat stuff. At some point, you know, the game isn't the selling point anymore. You know, you can only describe so many times how you're gonna do that corpse run for a Dark Souls boss. At some point, you gotta jump in with your own interesting, you know, sort of tidbits and dialogue. And that was actually one thing that called me. I guess like I felt was interesting about your stream, because I watched you play. I think I'm trying to remember if it was Dark Souls 3. I think it was DS3. Last time I saw you.
I think so. Yeah, I think because I went Dark Souls 2, 1, 3.
Yeah, the most recent one I saw you in was, I think, DS3, and you were talking about stuff. Some of it about the game, like some some narrative aspects of the game, but also bringing in your own stuff on top, which I think is how you have to do it, right? To sort of keep it interesting.
Yeah, especially when like you're oh god, I've forgotten every name of every boss in every Dark Souls game. Like with the dancer was a big one for me. So yes. I kept trying to do, because I played the game before, I kept trying to do the dancer early. Yeah. So there were like multiple streams of me running to the dancer and dying with like I'd just beaten Vort and I was like, right, time to kill the dancer. Yeah. And there's like streams of me just slowly losing my mind, talking absolute nonsense like with chat.
Yeah. It's some people are saying DS2 is underrated. DS2 is your favorite Sensu? Not even joking. That's interesting. I recently played DS2 on stream, and I think it's pretty crusty. Like it's pretty janky, but I love some of the locations, and it's got some really cool stuff in it, especially the DLC. What do you think?
Well, okay, people are going to get mad at me. I think I hate Dark Souls 2.
Okay.
Maybe? It's one of these games, I feel like it's the biggest tease ever. Like, you enter this brand new enemy, the weapon designs are amazing, and you're like, oh my god, this is building up to something incredible. Oh no, it's just poison. It's just poison. Yeah. It's all just poison. It's like, oh look, I'm delving down the gutter. Oh yeah. Oh, great. It's just the gutter, but with more poison and ambush enemies, and then it's like
miserable in a lot of parts.
Yeah. And
that's it. Sensu says she's a PvP player. That's it. The PvP scene in DS2 was just incredible. I didn't do a lot of it.
Dabble.
Did you? Yeah.
I dabbled. I kind of wanted to beat it because Dark Souls 2 was the only one I hadn't beaten prior to streaming. Right. The other two I had, so that was my main goal. But the problem with the PvP with Dark Souls 2, and I don't really think this is like a problem. This is just how it's an old game. This is just how it's ended up. But you either seem to get people that just want to have a good old fashioned scrap.
Yeah.
And then you get people that are like, here's my meta sorcerer build.
Dude, it's so impossible.
Like, okay.
Because if you're just playing the game, like the PvE, like you just want to beat the game, your build is not good to go up against a player because they have a decked out build that's specifically geared towards dealing with players. So it's already like a lopsided battle. Then they also like use some of the environment against you, right? They want to cheese you with enemies, and they always do. People say, oh, there's an honor system. Back in the DS2 days, there was a little bit. Nowadays, it's horrible. You get invaded in DS3 right now, it's always griefers.
100%. And I feel bad because I'm not an honourable PvPer, so I do like PvP. I actually got into the Soulsborne with Bloodborne, hence the tattoo.
Oh, nice tat, dude. Yeah.
Like all over the arm. And in that, I was not honourable. I used poison weapons. Mm-hmm. I used like dirty tricks in the environment. Like if I got wind that a player was new, well, they're being lured into something nasty. Like I was real mean with it. And I also, even when I was doing co-op, I joined the faction that has a random chance to summon you as an invader instead of a co-op person.
Oh, what a dick. Oh.
Hey, Cornuto.
Cornuto, what's up? How's it going? Sensu's got a Bloodborne tattoo. I think I've seen it as well. Yeah. I like those tats.
Choice.
You know, the thing with tats, I've always kind of considered having a tat, but then the thought has been, what if I stop liking that particular thing over the years, and now I got this tattoo on me that doesn't represent me in any way, shape, or form, but is there. Right?
Yeah.
I
was gonna say I agree. I worried about that, but so far I still love Bloodborne. I still feel like it represents me.
Yeah.
You know, it's a Souls-like
I
horror
think
type
when
game.
you get to a certain age, not calling you old, by the way, just saying like, you know, your interests aren't gonna change that drastically. If you get a tattoo at 16, that's more debatable, I think, because you know at that point you're like, hey, Blink 182. Right, all over your chest or something, and later on maybe you regret that in hindsight.
Like the lyrics to the Black Parade across your chest.
Oh, dude, what a great song. Anyways, so.
I do still like the song, to be fair, but yeah,
yes.
yeah. I think so. I'm 30. I don't care about. I'll reveal my age, reveal my secrets.
Boom.
I got the tattoo when I was 27, so fairly rooted in like I know I want this. If the dates don't match up with Bloodborne being released, then it would have been later. But I feel like that's what it was. But you know, last year was a bit of a blur, so I feel like my guessing of time's completely gone.
Yeah, it's all gone. So let's put a bow on the Dark Souls stuff because you know I could talk about it all day. But let's get a summation. Give me like what's your top if you think about the FromSoft games, what's your top?
Oh, Bloodborne.
Bloodborne, okay.
Without a shadow of a doubt. My introduction into the series, because I bounced off Demon Souls.
Yeah.
I bounced off Dark Souls. And this is a story. This is not a unique story. This has just happened to so many people.
Yeah.
I played Bloodborne and then it clicked and I got Dark Souls 3 when it came out. Beat that. Then got Dark Souls 1. Beat that. Never got round to 2. Despite bouncing off it a few times, because I just kept playing 3.
Yeah.
So...
Yeah, dude.
Yeah.
3 is so good.
Oh,
I think
so good.
For me, it's got to be my favorite, because it is the one I've returned to the most. It was just fun to, hey, let's do a different build, or even a similar build, but with a different armor set. And I don't know, man, it's so good.
I think they really hit the nail on the head for like the replayability with Dark Souls 3 I found because it like for me it simplified everything so that you could kind of try any build with like less of a barrier without lessening like the variety of the builds. And I also feel like Dark Souls 3 after playing Dark Souls 2 it kind of functions as the greatest hits. Like, you kind of get a version of all
it's
the
the latest iteration of that type of game, kind of.
I don't know why they decided the greatest hits would include a poison swamp again.
That's a flagship. Every Souls game has a fucking poison swamp. And it's funny, Sensu mentions she's the other way around, so she did the games in order. That's kind of how I did it. I played Demon Souls first. And it was just a dreadful experience, and I loved it. So it was just full of trepidation, fear, and dread the whole way through. And that one not only has a poison swamp, but when you're done with the poison swamp, you see some glimpses of light. Guess what? You go into a plague swamp. If you thought the poison swamp was shit, here's the party, right?
Oh, I'm just going to cancel my PS5.
Cancel PS5. I haven't played the PS5. I don't have one yet, but I will when I get it. I have seen others play it, like Sensu, and it does look primo. So I do want to play it, but
I think that money's going to go on a graphics card because my computer got all updated for a new graphics card, but then I never got around to getting the graphics card for reasons.
Graphics card. And
so I've got a 1060,
yes,
but a Ryzen 7 700X, I think it is. So it's like from like a 2019 newly released CPU with a 1060.
Yeah. You don't remember Demon Souls that way? That was my experience, but I was so green. That was my first, I had never played anything so hardcore. Well, yeah, back then.
And I think it's fair to say that Dark Souls is like hardcore.
Yes.
I don't necessarily think like the difficulty's the only selling point for it, but there's no denying that it takes at least whether you call it difficulty or not, takes a bit of a rewiring of your gaming brain to get through it.
Yeah, Tob, what's up? I think what really I wasn't used to is the being held accountable for my mistakes so much. Because in that game, every swing is kind of a heavy commitment because you're so slow compared to enemies and stuff. You really need to be sort of tactical about your moves. So
I will say, I played all the Dark Souls with katanas as well. Like, it became like a stream meme, me doing it with katanas, being Katana Man. And DS2 has the best katanas, hands down. They feel fast, sharp. Like, they feel like you're actually using a katana.
Yeah.
And Dark Souls 3 has the worst katanas. They're too flashy.
That was a bit of a letdown because early on in DS3, you have access to a katana if you kill the monk.
Master swordsman.
Yeah.
Guy.
And he's tough, right? Like, it's like, so it's tough. You kill him after many tries the first time, and you get this katana, and then it's not that great.
No.
The moveset is not that great.
No, they're so slow.
Yeah.
Like, I've never felt less confident with a melee build in a Dark Souls game than I did playing Dark Souls 3, the game I've played the most out of all of them, with a katana. I just felt like I could not take on any fights. Because I'd hit attack and it would be like... Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
man. What about Sekiro? Did you play that?
Oh, I am one of the people who played Sekiro incorrectly. I did not... I was saying about the brain rewiring?
Yes.
I didn't rewire my brain. I keep meaning to go back to it after chatting to people like Twisty.
Yeah.
Obviously, we both know, who's explained the game and how you need to play it. But I played it like a Souls-like, so I was too cautious, I wasn't parrying enough, and I was nowhere near aggressive enough, which meant I basically just constantly got mobbed. If I fought more than 2 enemies, I got mobbed, and every boss was taking me like hours and hours and hours and hours and hours just to get like the first health bar down, not even beat them, because I was backing off. And then they obviously regen, don't they? If you back off out the arena.
Yeah, and they have ways of cutting the gap between. So it's a losing proposition if you try to play like that, which I did as well. So I have the same complaint. I wish they wouldn't shoehorn in the parry playstyle and they gave you some more options on how to tackle the game. That said, when you do give in and you're like, okay, all right, Miyazaki-san, I will play your game. It's great. But you do need to give into it. Yeah. Which... And sorry, I cut you off, but I also sort of low-key hate it because it's created this, how to say this like copy-paste where a lot of games now come out where if you don't parry, that's a wrap. It's not. There aren't any other play styles that are really viable outside of parrying all the time. In many games, Mortal Shell, if you don't parry, for me, in my experience, you're just boned. I don't know, maybe there's some other shells you can get later, but,
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, I had other issues with Mortal Shell. I was so bored, Mortal Shell. Time felt like molasses when I was playing that. I felt like I'd been streaming it for 6 hours and it's like 40 minutes.
Wow.
It's so boring. I found the environment boring, the enemies boring, the moveset boring, the items boring. I was just so bored playing Mortal Shell. I don't know why.
Yeah, and fair enough.
I just was
the way I view it is it's a throwback to DS1 with a large focus on parrying and really good looking graphics, admittedly. So I think that's like the proposition. And if you're, if that's not it for you, then it's not it.
Yeah.
But dude, I did say like 10 minutes ago I wanted to put a bow on the. This is why I knew it.
All right.
I knew this could go on for a long time.
All right. We all like Souls. We
like Souls.
We like Souls. We like From Software.
Yes.
Done.
Create Elden Ring someday. We will wait for it.
Doesn't exist, mate.
It's a pipe dream. I hope the project doesn't hinge on George R.R. Martin actually writing something, because that's been a problem and continues to be. Right? I hope his contribution is like a page.
The game's done, but the only story we have is half of the prologue.
He wants to finish, Song of Ice and Fire first. Oh, man. Anyways, dude. Okay, good. Games. I want to hear from you because you're a horror player. Is that how you would say? Like, you play horror games mostly?
I play horror, and the genre that I use as horror adjacent. So
nice. So that's your catch-all.
So games with a horror aesthetic that you might not class as horror. I'm only going to mention it and we won't discuss it. Dark Souls 3 I define as horror adjacent.
Okay.
Big gothic castles, zombies, undead, horrible creatures.
Fair.
But it's not a horror game.
Fair.
It's just aesthetically horror. Stalker, I would say, depending on where you are, is like horror adjacent.
Yeah. Oh, that game is spooky in places, dude.
Yeah. Castlevania games, like Cornuto said, and like Metroidvania, like Hollow Knight, I would say is horror adjacent at times. It's like, I love horror. I've always loved horror. I grew up reading like H.P. Lovecraft, watching scary films that I was too young to watch, and that kind of thing. Buffy the Vampire Slayer, all of those kind of shows. So I've just always loved horror. And it bled through into games. Like I love the macabre stuff.
Yeah, the setting, right, in the game.
Yeah, and I will play a scary game until it's no longer scary. Like Resident Evil 7. I played that so much. I think I'm at 60 hours in that game. That it's not scary anymore, but I still enjoy it.
Yeah.
It's like I am the horror in that game now.
It's funny you mentioned
Jack
Lovecraft.
runs from me.
Yeah. Who's the daddy now? But I recently picked up the Necronomicon compendium from H.P. Lovecraft. It's got a ton of. I'm your big fan, bro. Is that for Lister? Hammy DeWitch, what's up? The compendium is dope because it's got these short stories, and you read about all these different gods and stuff. So, like, I read a story that mentioned what was the god of the seas? So I'm trying to.
It was Cthulhu, who's like the great old one.
He's
and then
the big one.
Dagon. You got Dagon. Thank you.
Dagon
from Innsmouth. Yeah.
And then I was like, "Yo, that's interesting. I want to learn more about it." So that's already like a springboard for me to look up stuff about Dagon. Right, rabbit hole movies. Right?
It's
other
such
stuff.
A rabbit hole.
Yeah, and it's great.
The fact that his work was entrusted, when he died, his work was entrusted to his friends who set up a foundation. And that foundation have basically said, to use a software term, his work is open source.
Yeah.
So if that's why you have so many indie games making Lovecraft games, because if you use Cthulhu as the bad guy in your game and call it Call of Cthulhu, you're not copyright infringement, because H.P. Lovecraft was a big fan of putting his work out there for other people to build on.
Right.
So, yeah, that's why you get all these random indie games, and why like a horror game will just randomly reference Cthulhu, because they can. They don't get in trouble for it.
I read a book that's... It's from Peter Kleins. I'll write it in chat if someone wants to check it out. And it's 14 is the name of the book. So 14. And it's like a modern day setting, so it's like Los Angeles nowadays, but it goes from that normal setting into like a full-on Cthulhu action in a really cool way. It's like a mystery thing and really well fleshed out. So I thought that was a cool take, because these stories tend to be always with a setting that takes place in, early 1900s, right? Sort of.
Yeah, and it's a bit played out sometimes when...
Yeah, with the detective, right?
Yeah.
You got the tropes, the Lovecraftian tropes. I thought it was cool to bring it to a more modern setting. So
Yeah, like that, like what I know it's not modern setting, but like what Lovecraft Country does, where it's like set in the middle of like the civil rights thing. I keep meaning to watch it because it looks really interesting.
Oh, you haven't seen it yet?
I haven't seen it yet. Is it good?
So it is good. It's a good show, but it's not Lovecraft.
That's fine.
So, just to like temper your expectations, it is not actually based on any Lovecraft stories. It has a couple things from it and some tropes, but it's really about Lovecraft Country, which I think was a book.
That's cool. I mean, I'm perfectly okay with that, because as a big Lovecraft fan, I'm kind of sick of playing Shadow over Innsmouth.
Yeah.
I'm kind of done with just playing Shadow over Innsmouth or watching Shadow over Innsmouth. Like, do something new.
Right. So I think you may sympathize with me, because let me know if you do, because in the stories, in the Lovecraft stories, there's this like mystery for 90% of the story where you don't know what's going on, and then there's the last 10% where shit gets real, and you get a glimpse into what the monster is or what the thing is. It's usually very vague, not explained very clearly, and then the person dies. Right?
Or nopes the fuck out, which is a very big, which is such a contrast to modern horror.
But
it's like,
but in either case, you never like actually get like an explanation really, and even the descriptions, if they see what the thing is, the descriptions are always like an unthinkable that can't be described. Okay.
Yeah.
Always felt a little bit like a cop-out. I know it's a mechanism to, to have like the mystery and the fear, right?
It was innovative for the time.
If you know what it is, the fear isn't going to be as great. I get that.
Yeah.
But and I think we share the profession. Aren't we both software engineers?
No, not at all. I'm unemployed at the moment.
Oh, okay.
But because due to the events of 2020, I lost my job, unfortunately. But before that, I was in insurance. But I'm flattered that you think I'm clever enough to be one.
Dude, you've always come across as either like someone in IT, because of the way you speak. You talk about like IT stuff.
Or like a huge part of my IRL and Twitch friends all work in IT.
You've picked up a lot of the lingo.
And I built my own PC. I tried to troubleshoot my own problems with their help.
Yeah. So you're like PC savvy and tech savvy.
Yeah. Like my mate who works in he's like I think it's kind of like server management for like a big company in the UK. He's like, you know more about computers than some of our first line support, but that is first line support, which is almost just a call center job in some places, isn't it?
Okay, so let me pull it back to the thread I was exploring, which is because I have this like software engineer hat, let's say. I tend to be really analytical about stuff. I want to learn how it works. I want to find out what's behind the veil, right? What's spinning the gears, and I never get that in the the Lovecraft stories, because when we get to that part, people nope out, or they're dead, or shit hits the fan where it's the end of the universe. So, how is it for you when you read those stories? Are you happy with that kind of just like open ending? I
am, because I've come to terms with how unhappy it makes me. So, I still have that mindset of like, I want to know how things work. No, I was a kid that's like, he's broken his toy again because I've pulled it apart to see how the motor makes it move when you pull it back along the carpet. So like all of my toy cars were broken because I would pick them apart. So I'm like that. I want to know how things work. And part of the horror of Lovecraft for me comes from the fact that I'm not allowed to know. I always kind of jokingly say, partly to annoy people, you don't need a third act for a story to be good. You don't need it. The third, and what I mean by that is like the conclusion of the third act rather than the third act itself. And that's one of the reasons why I love it, is because it's just like, no, you don't get that.
Right.
It's like, I love endings in games when, especially if it's multiple endings, and one of the endings is because you made a bad decision because you didn't think things through. Like, I won't spoil it, but one of the endings of Metro 2033 is like that. That game has 2 endings, and one of the endings is essentially, no, it's too late. You didn't think things through, and now it's where it is. Deal with it.
Yeah, I like that. I do like that. Cornudo says, when things get explained, it kills the horror a lot of the time. I think it can be done properly. I've had stories where there is an explanation at the end, it all lines up, and it's terrifying because it's worse than you would have imagined. Because people say, hey, if they don't explain it, they leave it open, and it's your imagination is infinite. You can think of any number of things, and that can be terrifying. But to me, I give the person writing the book more credit than I do myself. I think they can come up with something more scary and terrifying than I can. You know what I mean? So
that's fair.
A lot of times I'm like, yo, give me something juicy there in the end, that payoff.
I think, honestly, I think that's one of the reasons why, like, and I love the Resident Evil games. Yeah. I think that's one of the reasons why I think the Resident Evil games go so crazy at the end, because it's like, once you know it's a virus, you know how the outbreak happened. It's like, right, now we're going to show you how bad this virus really is. It's like in Resident Evil 2, you learn about Birkin, and you learn that he injected the virus into himself that's making him all crazy. And then each time you learn something about Birkin, you get a next version of him to be like, but it's worse than you thought it was, but it's worse than you thought it was.
Right, yeah.
I mean, you don't unlock his final boss fight till you've beaten the game in both the original and the remake, until you've beaten both sides of the story. Then you get the actual thing, which is a final, this is how bad that virus is. And that's like my bread and butter when it comes to horror games.
Yeah.
Is just amping up the stakes. Like, I know some people don't like the more actiony Resident Evil games, but I love it because action and horror are like 2 of my favorite genres.
I think those are great games. All the recent Resident Evils turned out to be pretty good. Pine, what's up? Nice to meet you. Would you say Junji Ito's work is a good start to get into body horror genre? What would you say?
It is. You are throwing yourself into a deep end imagery-wise, so it depends what you want.
It sticks with you.
If you want to be gradually introduced to body horror because you're a bit squeamish, it might be a bit of a tough one. But if you're like, I want to get into it by seeing the, not worst as in bad, as in like imagery, the worst imagery I can think of, then Junji Ito is an amazing starting point.
He's a creative motherfucker.
Exactly. A good middle ground, I would say, is I can't remember the full title, but Amagari Fault or Amagaro Fault. Okay. Which primer, there's a big earthquake, and it reveals all these human-shaped holes in a cliff face. You will get spoilers if you look up imagery, by the way, because the last splash screen is like super iconic.
Okay.
And people start thinking that the holes are made for them. And they all start going to the fault to try and find their hole that fits them perfectly. The Enigma of Amagari Fault. There you go.
Thank you. I'm actually noting that down because that sounds really interesting.
Yep. And that's a really nice one because the body horror is extreme, but not numerous.
Okay.
And then on the other end of that is if you want more of Junji Ito's like existential stuff, and these are his 2 series.
Yeah.
Uzumaki is the most Lovecraftian one he has.
Yeah.
And that is just about a town infected with a shape.
That was my first contact with Junji Ito. A friend got me into it. They were like, that's the one to start on. And
then the other's Gyo.
And so that's the second one that I read. Okay, good. We're on the same page. Yeah. I'm now reading one that's called Smashed. Have you read that one?
Oh, no, I haven't.
That's a bit more recent. I think that was out on
I haven't caught up with a lot of his recent stuff.
But let me tell you, if you guys get a chance to check out Uzumaki, if you're into, it's like some of this stuff, like I say, it kind of stays with you because it's really psychological horror.
Oh, especially Uzumaki. Like, Gyo is just horrible, disgusting imagery.
Yes. But Uzumaki is like, dude, it's deep, some of the stuff. Anyways.
It really is. Like, I would say Gyo is almost like his zombie apocalypse.
Yes. Yeah.
It's kind of his zombie apocalypse series. It's like Junji Ito's Walking Dead, I would say, Gyo. That's not saying that it's zombies, but when you read it, you'll get the scale and the idea of what it's going for. Whereas Uzumaki's like basically just set in one village. Yeah. Much like Lower Thing.
Some of the imagery in that, I remember it vividly, and it's still like nightmare fuel. So anyways, people should check that out. By the way, I should say, we didn't explain that those are like visual novels.
Yeah, they're mangas, aren't they?
Mangas, sorry, yeah. I don't know the difference. Is there a difference between a manga?
I'm sure someone more talented can explain to me, but if it's Japanese and it's a graphic novel, it's a manga. That's like your good starting point.
It's a manga, but it's great.
And you read them backwards because they're Japanese books.
Yes.
So the spine will be on your right side while you're reading, and you open it like that. Although I'm mirrored, but
yeah. And the dialogue stuff also.
Yeah, you go from like
top right,
like a comic but backwards. So you still start at the top, but you go left to right, right to left.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. It's like your CDs. If you have like a shelf with your CDs, you start with the top right. That's the good shit. Bottom left is the barrel, bottom of the barrel. But I did want to say hello to Wrench. Welcome back, man. It's good to see you. And he has a question. How would you rate Evil Within versus Resident Evil series? I enjoy horror genre and haven't played either for some unknown reason.
Both are great. I would say with Resident Evil, you can pretty much pick a game you like the look of and just jump in. Because although they have links, and with a few exceptions like Resident Evil 0, although it's completely on its own still, they're standalone stories. Like, you're not going to get to the end of a Resident Evil game and not defeat the big bad of that game's story.
Right.
You're going to get a conclusion. Whereas Evil Within, particularly Evil Within 2, you have to play the first game to fully get Evil Within 2, both from a gameplay perspective and like an idea of what the story's going on. Because Evil Within 2 will not explain anything to you. And it drops a spoiler of what actually went on within Evil Within right at the start. So just as an example, say that this is a fake spoiler. Say that you found out that bananas were behind it all along in Evil Within, right? Evil Within 2 would start with, oh no, what are the bananas doing here? And you're like, I'm sorry, what are the bananas doing here?
Right.
Like, bananas? What? It's that kind of thing. So you kind of have to play the first one to get the second one. The first one's okay. The second one's really good. Like, if you can get the first one cheap, I think you'll have a good time with it. If you're getting it on PC, go to PC Gaming Wiki, look up some fixes to get your widescreen, get your frame rate sorted. Evil Within 2 should work out the bag.
Okay. Cornudo says, don't know if anyone else would agree, but I feel like the Evil Within games are probably more enjoyable if you already played at least one or two Resident Evils as well. They kind of build on that genre.
Yeah, I think that's a fair statement. I think you could still get into them. And yeah, also Evil Within 1 is like super hard at the end.
Right.
As in, I wish I had a quick save option hard.
Like retrying segments a lot of times.
There's bits at the end where if you miss the first shot, you're probably going to die from the enemy's retaliation.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, but the flip side is it's got a mad rush ending. So you don't have to think, you just have to keep going forward. So you don't have to like keep solving puzzles or anything.
Yeah.
You just die, checkpoint, fight again, die, checkpoint, fight again. Whereas Evil Within 2 is slightly open world. It's a hub that's like a really sort of creepy underground section that connects to these mini open world areas that have their own kind of theme, and
it all
fantastic.
Sounds lovely. Yeah, it's a great time to be there. Yeah, I always wonder in these games, like, why are you even there in this horrible place? Like you've gone there voluntarily to set yourself up for a horrible time. Like, dude, Resident Evil 7, you go to this house. Like, nobody's forcing you.
Yeah.
You go to this fucking house. Shit is horrible already from the get-go, and you stay there. You're in the forest. Go into the house. Yeah. And there's like a mysterious, shape runs by. I'm out. I'm already noping out. I'm not even in the house, right? Like, the game is over.
Like, say what you will about 4, 5, and 6 being very actiony, but at least it makes sense why you keep going forward, because you're playing people that have dealt with this shit before and it's their job. So at least they're getting paid.
Job. Talk about a shitty job. Have you played Phasmophobia?
I love Phasmophobia. Okay. How many hours do I have in Phasmophobia?
Dude,
I know someone who's level 500 in it.
Whoa! Yeah, people are going nuts with that game. It's a cool concept.
Good.
I think it's a lot of fun. But your job in that game is, it's almost like you're the prep crew that the Ghostbusters call. Right? So so they're like, hey, go check out this location and tell me what's up, what kind of ghost it is, right? Give me the rundown of the sitch. And you're very likely to die, of course. You're very underpaid. Your payout is maybe you're the interns. You maybe get $50 for risking your life all night long, every night, and it's a terrible gig.
And then other people probably get paid more to do the cool job.
The Ghostbusters get the movie, right? Those fuckers get the movie, get paid way better, and all they do is like they go in there with all the information you've collected painfully, and they go in and profit.
Yeah.
Anyways, it's a long rant about why the Ghostbusters are overrated.
A lot of the fun of when we play it as a team is being like, we don't get paid enough for this shit.
Yeah, it's literally some nights it's like $10.
It's like we just went into a haunted prison, almost died 7 times.
Or even several of you died. Yeah.
Oh man, we have a joke where one of my mate Ryan we play with.
Yeah.
He's always the first to die. Literally always dies. And what we thought it was because the microphone was picking up his dog barking. But I don't know if you heard about the new update. He was just unlucky because the dev said, oh, by the way, the ghost wasn't listening to your mic this whole time. We were only monitoring it if you were pressing the push to talk button.
Okay.
It wasn't monitoring your mic. Next update, it will. So now, if you make a noise and you haven't pressed push to talk, the ghost will hear the noise, which means if his dog barks while he's hunting, he's going to get killed.
Oh, because it angers the ghost?
Yeah, because his dog will literally walk up to him while he's at his computer, look at him, and just start going, ruff, 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 ruff.
Oh, that's so funny, man. Oh, Jesus. Yeah, that's a cool mechanic in the game, the voice recognition thing. That's pretty cool.
It's really good.
I did want to ask you about Subnautica. And before you answer, just, be careful, because if you didn't like the game, we can no longer be friends. But continue freely.
I'm halfway, okay? So before we start... No, it's fine, because I keep needing to replay it. I hate survival games.
Okay, fair.
I'm hungry and thirsty enough in real life. Take that second.
Yeah,
you will.
In all the meanings.
Without having to worry about it in games, I can stand it in Tarkov, because you just have to chug a can of milk halfway through the raid if you're taking too long. Or if you get shot in the stomach, fair enough, you might need water after that. But I found it really hard to enjoy everything I was loving about Subnautica because of the hunger and thirst, which I put on because people were like, oh, it's not that bad. People that tell you it's not bad play a lot of survival games. I don't play any.
Or, let me push back a little. Or they have developed good systems to get food and drink easily. Example, you can plant potatoes and like drink fruit stuff, like water.
Yeah. Plant
so like at that point,
hydromelons.
At that point, it becomes trivial, right?
Yeah, I know, and then it becomes annoying for me.
Listen,
I don't want to go back to eat
it's
a minute.
fair. I hear you.
Literally, name another aspect of that game, and fucking 10 out of 10.
Right.
Absolutely loved it. Like, and I got quite far in the story. I got the prawn suit. I was exploring the lava bit.
Yeah, that's
where the sea walkers are.
The last area. I think.
Then it was too much for me, the hunger and thirst. I was getting too annoyed at having to fill up. So I'm going to replay it and just turn that off.
There's a mode, now they have 4 different modes with different...
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I am going to replay it because I want to play Below Zero, which by all accounts is shaping up to be even better. But I don't want to play that until I played the first one. So I want to play that again with all the survival stuff turned off, because I literally loved everything. So another thing that I love deep sea. One of my dreams is to get into one of the big proper deep sea diving suits and just be dropped onto the ocean floor and walk around with the pincers.
With the prawn suit.
And I also love exosuits and mechs. So,
awesome.
And I love horror and I love deep sea. So the whole thing was amazing. I would swim around with my torch off in that game just to spook myself.
Dude,
like swimming around.
I have like a bit of a fear of depths. So when I played, I was like, yo, what's ahead of me? Because you can't see a lot of times.
I didn't think I was scared of deep water until I played Subnautica, to be fair. And then I was like...
And they put that music on as well. When it's never in the shallows. That music comes in when it's like, fuck, what's there?
And it's the thing that I hate the developers though, because they're so clever.
Yeah.
Like the fact that the Reaper yawn, you can hear from like half of the map away.
Yes.
And then when you get nearer, it will do like a warning roar.
Oh.
Even if you can't see it, and
that's when you need the brown pants.
Yep. And no, I had the whole thing of like the sea moth being grabbed while I was in it from behind.
Yes.
And like suddenly I'm like, why am I moving? Why am I moving? And then it like spits me out. The sea moth turned round, and it's like,
oh god. Dude, the size of some of the Leviathans is so ridiculous in that game.
I love the reefbacks, though. I built my base near reefbacks just because they're so cool.
Right, so for people who don't know, the reefbacks are these big, like, almost tortoise-looking things, and they're giant, and they're harmless to you, but they just float, right? So they're just floating near the surface, and they're big. I almost thought you could build a base on one.
That would be so
right?
Cool.
If you had like a mobile base on top of one of them.
I even cheated to get a reefback egg. So they're not in the game, but you can spawn one and make a baby reefback. It clips out of the aquarium.
Right.
And can't move. but I did it because I wanted it.
Yeah.
So we enabled console commands. I spawned the egg, hatched it, and just had this huge reef back in my aquarium
That's
with
so
like
ridiculous.
a cuttlefish underneath it going.
Yeah, it's amazing. Chad, thanks for the follow. And Tob says, I scuba dive, never been freaked out, but Subnautica gave me that paranoia feeling. Yeah, they know how to play with you, man. There's something about it.
Oh, for sure.
But yeah, I think that for me, that's the best survival game. Because I also dislike a lot of those like hunger mechanics and things.
I'm just lazy. Like Tarkov's the only one that I kind of stand. And Tarkov's like survival mechanics are very loose. They're more just to add depth to the healing mechanic and to stop people from abusing certain systems. So like if you take lots of hits and don't heal, you'll start expending more energy. It will cost you energy to use like the surgery kit to heal yourself, so you can't just keep surgery healing yourself. And often you just need half a bottle of water to get through a match in that, and you're fine. So it's really not that hard. Maybe an MRE if you've been really hit, you know.
But nice. real quick, going back to like narrative and stuff, because one other thing that I kind of stuck with me from watching your streams is like the way you talk. It's almost like a storyteller. It sounds like I'm just tooting your horn, but it's like it has like a storytelling quality to it. Do you do any like writing or anything like that?
I read a lot.
Okay.
I have like a real like I love storytelling in a game. Like I guess like I studied film studies at college, and a lot of what I learned there stuck with me.
Cool.
So when I'm playing a game, I'm not just looking at do I like the story. I'm thinking about do I like how it's being presented to me.
Yeah.
As an example, using Stalker as an example, I didn't really like the story. I liked the presentation though, where it was kind of like an overarching, overbearing thing that you were conscious of, but you weren't necessarily sharing it with people. Which meant it was a bit kind of not that well like elaborated, but I liked how it was presented. Dark Souls, I really like the story and I like the presentation, but the presentation makes me like the story more, type thing. So yeah, I have a lot of interest in like how stories are presented, more so than the quality of the story. A lot of examples are like recent games, so I don't want to get too deep into them in case I spoil them.
That's fair. I think I heard you talk about that in Dark Souls 3 the time I watched your stream, and you were kind of talking at length about how the story is told being more important about the story itself. In a sense, like if you were to jot down the story beats for, Dark Souls 1, it's really fairly, simplistic, let's say. But it's told in this kind of mysterious, compelling way that you have to dig for it as well, and it kind of
like the actual story of Dark Souls 3 is an entirely silent protagonist with no obvious goals or morals is steamrolling through a kingdom where all the cool stuff has already happened to possibly make things better, but most likely worse than they already are. It's not the most compelling story, but the way it's told and how the lore gives context to what you're doing and what you're fighting and why things are the way they are, elevates it much more. Which is why I like Bloodborne a lot, because Bloodborne, you're doing more in the story. A lot of the stuff is happening as you're there, and you're causing a lot of the things to happen, which I really, really like. And I think that's what they tried to do with Sekiro, didn't they? Like you're actually causing stuff to happen. Like when you defeat a boss, it's like a general of the army you've just fought, and therefore you're weakening the enemy you're fighting against.
Much more plot driven than that's cool, man, because going back to, I guess, streaming, we were talking a bit actually before the show, what do you bring to the table, right, as a streamer that kind of keeps people engaged? I think that's one of the things, is the ability to kind of talk about this sort of stuff in a compelling way, like you do about the storytelling stuff. And it could be anything, right? Every person has their own thing, but it's so difficult to narrow down, like, oh, what skills do you need to succeed? As even the word succeed is vacuous. What does it mean to succeed on Twitch, right? But let's just say, for the purposes of the conversation, to have like a flourishing channel where people are coming in, checking it out, let's say. Like, what does it take, right? Is it the tech aspect? Do you need a good camera? Sure, that will get people in the door and will prevent people from leaving. But ultimately, it's how you present things, right? And your discussion, I think. But what's your take on that?
I think with me, I guess for me, the only real goal that I have when I start a stream is I want to play the game in a fun way, whether that be because I haven't played it before, or try and play it in a way that's uncommon. Like in terms of what I'm actually doing with my hands, like on the stream.
Yeah.
But in terms of myself, I just try to make everyone feel welcome. I try to offer my kind of unfiltered opinion on things, and I try to kind of talk about things with the game. Like, I love interacting with chat. Like a lot of streamers, one of the reasons I started streaming was simply because I played a lot of single player games, but I liked multiplayer.
Yeah.
So I wanted to play a single player game with people.
Yeah.
So I was like, well, I'll just stream it. If I stream it, sure, I might, I'm going to try and make something of the channel, but really, it would just be nice if I got like a few regulars come in who we kind of played the game and discovered it together. And then if I'm playing a game I already know about, I'm like, hey, I'm just going to kind of show the game off. We'll have a chat along the way. Like, I don't plan, like, we have a lot of streamers that plan subjects, and I really admire ones that can do that. But when I go into a stream, I'm just like, I'm going to see what the game makes me think to say, or if there's anything that like springs to my mind,
Yeah, and you phrased it in a way that it takes me back to when I was, a kid, and I had this friend that used to come over. We would play video games. I remember playing Dino Crisis. Do you remember that game? Old game, but a classic, right? A good one.
Yep.
I remember playing that game. He was like looking at a guide, and I was playing, and we're just talking about the game, and like, super engaged. And that experience is like the closest simile to what it is for me to like play a game with people on stream, because it's kind of like they're doing that. A lot of times they're actually looking at guides and backseating for you, but that feeling of like, hey, we're hanging out, playing this together, and we're kind of going through it. And it's tough because in the beginning it's almost like an arrogance thing, like, oh, how dare you think that you're interesting enough to like have people sit through you playing the game while they could play the game themselves. You got to break through that, right? Because you bring unique
100%.
value as a person. Like in my channel, I talk about the idea of like the talent stack a lot, which is because you may not be the best at one single particular thing, but you are really good at many different things that you bring to bear together, and that's your stack, right? And it makes you uniquely good for one particular thing because you combine those, skills and knowledge and presentation in a particular way that some people will dig, some people won't, and then those move away. That's fine. But I want people to give themselves a bit more credit, I think, and not think that it's like a narcissistic thing to want to become a streamer, for example, or to think that you have some value to give, because I think ultimately it's, we all do or end up having, right? Maybe if you're very young, you need to develop more skills or whatever, but this idea that you need to be arrogant to get out there. You know, I want people to get past it and not have this complex of, you know.
Yeah, I will say, I do, like, I agree with everything you said, but I do this kind of, like, I will say when I stream, and I mainly do this because I find it entertaining to be this way. I do play up my saltiness and I do play up my arrogance. But it's kind of like that clip of like Homer. It's like, I am so smart. SMRT. I mean, SMART.
Yeah, for sure.
It's kind of that. Like, I like to performatively give myself way too much credit for doing basic things.
Yeah, I do that as well all the time. And people know you're just joking. It's almost like a stand-up act at that point.
Mr. H in chat, who's just said it's true. That's the one with the dog that's going to get him killed in
Mr. H
Phasmophobia.
with the many deaths in RIP.
Yeah.
Many Fs for you, sir. Quick Tracer, what's up? It's very clear that that you're playing it up. I hope people didn't think you were fooling. No, I think it's very clear, and especially people who, you know, are regulars in the channel, they understand. Yes, your reputation precedes you. Nice to meet you. Oh man, yeah. Sorry, I think I got into a bit of a rant there.
That's fine. I enjoyed it.
But I have that thing where people feel the need to always like shit on themselves, and this like humility thing.
100%.
But you also have to recognize your value, right, in order to be able to give it. So
definitely, and I think all streamers do this to varying degrees, because you're in this weird thing where, like, and I always find this really weird. I know we're coming to the end of the thing, but like, you start networking with other streamers, whether because you enjoy their content, or you like have mutual streamer friends. Usually a combination of both, and you get involved, and you're in this weird thing where you're like comparing yourself to them, because in a way they're competition, but they're not really competition, because you're all just really, and this is like, I think outside of a few people that are very strange, you're there when you network with another streamer, you see them doing well. I'm happy for all of like my streamer friends who are doing really well, but like my brain has this tendency to like compare myself constantly.
Interesting.
You just have to be like, no,
yeah,
that's their channel. That's what they're doing.
Everybody's in a different place.
Exactly.
Nobody's success means that you can't succeed.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
A lot of people see it as a zero-sum game, in the sense that, you know, if someone is getting the viewers, you are not. It doesn't matter if you think it's because they have boobs or, you know, like there's this mentality, right? It's because your shit isn't as good as it could be. Right, work on your shit. Try to get it out there. Try to get the exposure. Yeah. That's half of the battle as well. A lot of people,
100%.
A lot of people have the value, but they're not getting it out there, not getting eyes on it. So,
and it also comes down to the kind of content you make. Like, I don't really play the latest games. Like, outside of the Resident Evil games that I will play as soon as they're out because it's Resident Evil. I play games that have like niche appeal.
Yes.
So, you know, my content's different. My like whole like way my channel operates is different to a lot of people. Like, even if I get a PS5, the chances of me streaming a PS5 game are quite low. I'm more likely to play some weird as hell shooter from the early noughties that I've modded so that it actually works. That's gonna be like, oh, I didn't even know this game existed. I'm like, me neither.
I think that may be a good thing, actually, because those games tend to have a hardcore following, and a lot of people are looking for that content. Not a lot of people are playing those games comparatively, and it's just easier for you to raise in that directory than it is, you know, like, hey, Cyberpunk, or, you know, name latest game in here.
Yeah, I saw when I was getting 40 frames in that game. When I was testing it and thinking about streaming, I was like, this isn't going to be
maybe not the best experience.
I've really fallen off that game, because it's like, the more complex the game gets, the more bugs appear. and I started a new game to check, and I'm fairly sure that they got like part way through QA testing that, or there's something that happens with the save files because
it's pretty rough.
game is
it's pretty
not
rough.
buggy.
I still enjoyed it quite a bit. I actually beat it 2 times. I did like one personal playthrough and on stream.
I saw you doing the Katana.
Yeah, Katana lady.
I started doing Katana, and then I found the Mantis blades, and I was like, why
dude,
have a Katana?
they're so OP.
It's so...
For people who don't know, those are blades that literally come off your arms, and you just like crunch into people. It's so good.
Just click your mouse like that, and you'll pretty much kill everything in the game.
It's so powerful. Oh man!
If they're far away, hold and click so you can jump at them, and then just keep clicking.
Dude,
the animation's so fast on them. I have no idea what they're doing.
It's so OP. They need to balance some of that stuff.
And I've got the legendary ones, so they go at like 3 times the speed.
Wow! I got the basic, the common ones. Wow. By the way, John Jock, thank you for ordering some merch, dude. A hoodie and a mug. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Let's see here. Cornuto says, I really watch only really watch variety streamers. And one thing I've noticed is whenever they play a less popular game, there's always a couple of people who pop in and chat who obviously watch for new people playing the game all the time. For sure. Like, oh, are you new to Dark Souls? All the time. Whenever you play Dark Souls. Mm-hmm. There's just a lot of demand for that.
Yeah, and I found that with Stalker, and through that community, I found out about a mod called Stalker Anomaly, which puts all the Stalker games together.
I heard about it.
Yeah, it's really cool. It's really cool. Runs, if you go into a well-lit room, it runs like a cinematic experience, shall we say. But otherwise, it's fine when you're walking around.
Yeah, 23 frames per second cinematic, or what do you mean? Yeah, okay.
Yeah,
gotcha.
It runs at about 40-50, so it's still not great. I'm still working on optimizing a few things like fiddling, but yeah, I go into a room with like a nice light and it's like 24.
Yeah.
But at least it's stable, even if it's stable and low, you know?
Yeah, Sensu, you get it all the time. Yeah, for sure. All right, man. Was there anything you wanted to hit on before we go to the end game here that we haven't touched on?
Just a big thank you for having me on. It's been really, really great.
I appreciate it, man. It's a great chat. By the way, what are you doing on your channel? I think you're still playing Stalker, right? We mentioned it. Is that what's going on this week?
Yeah. Still Stalker. Hoping to beat it this week. And then I'm starting Far Cry 2 modded playthrough. Someone made a mod for Far Cry 2 that makes it even more masochistic and hardcore. So we're going to be playing that. And then I'm going to try out Stalker Anomaly at some point as well. And then who knows? Depends how long Far Cry 2 takes.
Subnautica streams. No, just kidding.
That's that's on the list. I in my Steam, I have my favorites of what I use that as my stream games, and Subnautica's in there. So
that's dope, dude. And people can check you out at the link here in the chat and also in the show notes if you're listening later in the podcast form. Dude, what's your schedule? Do you have like a set time that people can find you? Or
yeah. It's gonna hopefully change up with more streams, but for now, I do Monday to Thursday, 1 p.m. to 5/6 p.m. GMT. So, or until I get hungry is what I often say. Just because in the evenings I bang my head against the brick wall. In other words, play Tarkov.
Yeah.
Oh, so man. Yeah, I stream during the day. So yeah, have a little while you're at work. Hopefully, I can keep you entertained while you're working from home. You know.
Awesome. I hope people check it out. And dude, thanks for doing this. I'll see you around. Much love. Take care.
See you around.
Bye-bye.
Ciao.